Have you ever imagined waking up in June and finding frost on the ground? Or watching snow find the middle of what should have been summer? It sounds like something out of a strange dream or an apocalyptic prophecy, but it really happened. And it all started on a remote island thousands of miles away, with a mountain no one outside the region even talked about. This is the true story of how one volcanic eruption dimmed the sun, killed crops across continents, and turned 1816 into what history now remembers as the year without a summer. Our story begins in the island of Sumbawa, in what is now Indonesia. In 1800, this was a quiet, sparsely documented corner of the world. No maps detailed its dangers, and very few people outside the region knew its name. But looming over villages and forests stood Mount Tambora, a volcano that has slept for centuries, until it didn't. In April of 1815, the earth began to groan. Locals heard what they thought were cannon blasts going across the sky. Some believed the war was starting. But what was coming was not war, it was something far more powerful. On April 10, 1815, Mount Tambora exploded. Not erupted. Exploded. The sound was heard over 2,000 kilometers away. That is like an explosion in Africa being heard clearly in Europe. The top of the mountain, nearly 4,300 meters high, was obliterated in seconds. Entire villages vanished beneath rivers of ash and molten rock. The sky turned black. Daylight disappeared. Some accounts say that for days it was impossible to tell whether it was morning or night, but that was just the beginning. Pillars of ash and sulfur blasted into the atmosphere, so high that they pierced the stratosphere. Imagine a volcanic column more than 40 kilometers tall, spreading its fine dust across the globe like a death-free veil. Tambora released more ash and gas than any eruption in recorded human history. It was 10 times more powerful than Krakatoa and 1,000 times stronger than the atomic bomb dropped on Hiroshima. Around 10,000 people died immediately, burned, or suffocated in a pyroclastic flames. But what came afterward would claim far more. As the months passed, a strange grey haze began to appear in the skies far beyond Indonesia. Sailors in the Indian Ocean reported colored suns and crimson sunset. By the end of 1815, the ash has wrapped itself around the planet. It didn't fall like snow. It floated, thin enough to let sunlight through, but thick enough to change the world. Spring arrived in 1816, but something was off. Farmers in New England noticed cold mornings long after the frost should have ended. In May, ice formed on ponds in Pennsylvania. Then came June. June 6, 1816, Albany, New York snow. In Quebec, 30 centimeters of it. Birds froze to death on branches. Sheep covered in wool collapsed and died in white windfield. No one understood why. Farmers replanted crops 3 times, 4 times, only to watch them wither. In Europe, things were even worse. Continuous rain dropped fields in France and Switzerland. Wheat failed. Potatoes rotted. The price of grain tripled. People rioted in the streets. Some believed the end of the world has come. Priests feared the divine punishment. Others whispered about a hidden sun or a celestial curse. No one suspected the volcano half a world away. In the small town of Switzerland, rain hammered the roofs of a lakeside villa. A group of writers has gathered there, trapped indoors by endless storms and darkness at midday. One of them was an 18-year-old woman named Mary Shelley. Because the weather was too miserable to go outside, they challenged each other to write ghost stories. Out of that eerie, ash darkened summer came something new, something born from the cold and the fear of a world out of balance. While imagination flourished in candlelit rooms, the world outside was starving. In the land, hunger wiped out entire villages. In Germany, desperate families ate moss and grass. In a part of Asia, monsoon cycles twisted into chaos, leading to floods in some regions and droughts in others. And yet, almost no one, anyway, understood the cause. They didn't know about sulfuric acid aerosols high above the clouds, scattering sunlight back into space. They didn't know the atmosphere has been altered. They didn't know Mount Tambora has shaved 3 degrees of global temperatures in less than a year. Scientists today estimate that around 90 people died from the eruption itself, but over 1 million people died from famine, disease, and cold in the year that followed. Inter-harvest in China and India failed. In the United States, starving families and ruined farmers packed their belongings and headed west, beginning immigration that would shape the country's expansion. Climate change was not a theory, it was a nightmare that happening in real time. But like all strange stories born of disaster, this one left its fingerprints everywhere. The blood-red sunset that painters captured in England and Germany were not just inartistic choices, they were memories of ash in the sky. The word Frankenstein may not exist today without the cold that trapped its owners indoors. The global movements of populations, new crops like sugar beets, and even the invention of the bicycle are linked in one way or another to the dark summer of 1916. By late 1817, the skies finally began to clear. The world warmed slowly. Crops returned. People tried to forget. But the earth doesn't forget, and neither should do. One mountain, one eruption, 1 year when the sun lost its strength, and the world tasted a different kind of darkness. Some say it could happen again, somewhere, right now. Another sleeping giant waits beneath the soil, quiet, patient, ancient. The question is not whether it can happen, it's whether we will see it coming the next time the sky turns cold. If you enjoyed this strange but true story, don't vanish just yet. There are more mysteries buried in the history, more disasters that hid in plain sight, and more secrets the earth still keeps. Subscribe, like, and stay with us for the stories no one believes until they hear them. See you next time.